As we've come to expect in The Bear, they often put out faultless episodes. In Season 2, it was Episode 4, Episode 6, and Episode 7. And within this season, the first of the three that I felt was perfect and I'm going to be discussing is Episode 6, which was titled Napkins. Something which doesn't really have much meaning to it until you watch the episode and see exactly what the napkins brought to the table, quite literally. With this being Ayo Edebri's episode that she directed as well, she smashed it out the park. So with that, I want to discuss exactly why I feel this episode of the show is perfect. So let's get into it. Here is why The Bear Season 3 Episode 6 is perfect. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. It provided clarity to Tina and her behaviours in the past. One major thing that I thought this episode did really well was it allowed us to spend time with a character that we've gotten to know in a different capacity to the others that occupy the Bear's kitchen, and that was Tina. Tina has changed over the course of the 3 seasons of the show. When we were first introduced to her in Season 1, she was relatively resistant to change. She was cold with Sydney and Carmi when they entered the restaurant. And if I'm being honest, I didn't really like her that much, as I didn't know why she was being like that. But as the seasons have gone on, we've been able to see a real human side to her, and we were able to understand the yearning for growth and development that she had within her. Something which enabled her to open up and for her to be more willing to accept that change into her life. This episode was set before she ever worked at the Beef, and we saw that she was let go of a job that she'd worked in for 15 years. It was only due to her going into the Beef because her train was delayed, and after Mikey was filling up the napkins, which is where the title of the episode came from, that she got talking to him. And the both of them ended up talking about her struggles in life, where he then ultimately offered her a job and changed her life that day. Before this episode, we never knew of how Tina came to be in the restaurant, but seeing everything that happened in the build-up to the conversation, it allowed us to really understand why she was the way that she was in Season 1. Mikey welcomed her into his family. In fact, they had their conversation in the room where they have the family meal each shift, so the symbolism was there for that. When Carmi and Sydney first arrived in Season 1, she really didn't want to change anything and was stuck in her ways. However, knowing that Mikey was so important to her and that he quite literally saved her life at a time where she was going to lose it all, it just simply made sense. She wanted to hold on to the memory of him, and the memory of him was in the way that the sandwich shop was structured and the routine that they had there. Let's remember as well, we also saw that Tina liked routine and knowing what she was going to be doing, so that probably also contributed too. I also feel that after seeing her losing her job and her quite literally struggling to get a foot back on the job ladder at 46 years old, with her needing to learn new skills in the kitchen, learn a new routine, and not know what was around the corner, it was something that probably led to the hostility that she had. Mikey was her savior in that sense, and she didn't know if Carmi would have the same empathetic touch that his brother did. We saw why Tina was so strong in the present day. It's because she was knocked down time and time again and was given the softest hand from a tough guy and welcomed into an environment that really leaned in on her strengths. I think she really missed Mikey in Season 1, and by seeing what he did for her and how he gave her the strength to carry on and start a new life, that was her way of grieving. Without this episode, we never truly would have known that, so this episode really connected to Season 1 well. The importance of a conversation. You never know what can make someone's day. A smile, a conversation, or an act of kindness. And when Tina entered the Beef on one of the worst days of her life, she got all of those. A smile from Richie and Mikey, an act of kindness in a free coffee and a sandwich, and a conversation where somebody truly listened to her and allowed her to vent about all of her issues. The same was also the case with Mikey. In talking to Tina, he naturally started to open up about all of the issues that he had going on in his life. However, despite all of those issues, he was prepared to take the weight off of Tina for that small moment and help carry the burden. Knowing what happened to Mikey with him ending things for himself, this was such a beautiful scene. When their conversation finished, he said to Tina that he really appreciated speaking with her, and those words really cut deep. From the small few times that we've seen Mikey, he doesn't strike me as the type of person that would open up that much to people. So I doubt he ever spoke to Donna about what he was going through. I doubt Richie, Sugar, definitely not Carmi, or even Unc. So Tina may have genuinely been one of the only people that Mikey ever truly opened up to and shared his problems and his struggles with, which I think is quite beautiful, yet it's also haunting. Because Mikey didn't give off this impression that he was struggling. Tina, she was sitting at a table and crying, so her body language did half of the talking. But Mikey, he was smiling, joking, and you wouldn't know anything was going on underneath. It's scary. But what this told us was that a conversation can be so powerful and it can actually do more than what you think. It helped Tina, and in that brief moment, it helped Mikey too. They were equals, and they both took the burden off of one's shoulders and just simply became an ear to listen to the other. The mirrored reality. This episode touched on a subject that I don't think really gets spoken about enough. Companies let people go from their roles at work when their employees have been loyal to them for many years, and these people can find themselves having to re-enter the job market, which has basically become an alien space because so much time has passed. Tina hadn't looked for a job in over 15 years, and the world had changed a lot in that time. She couldn't just hand out her resume, she was competing with people that were significantly younger than her, and her experience didn't count for anything because companies were looking for education rather than time on the job. All things that are very apparent within reality. We saw the struggles that she was going through in not hearing back from companies wasting her time with interviews that were cancelled, and also the rudeness from people that couldn't even look her in the eye. I feel this is a topic that many viewers of the show will be able to understand if they've gone through it, and the fear of re-entering the job market at a slightly older age where everything is different is a scary thought. It quite literally broke Tina, a person that had so much experience in the field that she built a career in. This is a real problem that people go through, but you don't ever see it being depicted on screen, so I commend the bear for seeing that and wanting to lean into it. The way the episode was delivered. The way that this episode was directed and also shot was just perfect. It was one of the standout ones in this season for me. Tina liked routine, so there was a heavy focus on having the same shots every morning as part of her routine, so I like the fact that it drilled that into our mind and we got to experience a day in the life of Tina. When Tina lost her job and the camera was slowly zooming into her, it really marked the definition of change, and no words needed to be spoken because her eyes and face were doing all of the talking. I also thought that the scene in the beef was one that was really well shot. As the conversation got more and more intense, the camera was getting closer and closer to the subject that was talking. It really allowed us to focus not only on what they were saying, but also the emotions that were on their face, and it felt like it was almost symbolic of the fact that we were getting a deeper insight inside both of their minds, a place where it didn't even seem like they went themselves that much. Yet here they were, strangers, just telling each other all of their problems. This kind of feels like I'm stating the obvious, but I'm gonna mention it, and it's the performance of Tina by Liza Colon-Zayas. She showed a side to Tina that none of us had ever seen before, a fragile side that had a lot of strength running through her core. Tina is a mother, a wife, and an independent woman who wanted to be the best version of herself for her family, and she wasn't taking anything from anyone. This episode really allowed me to sympathize, empathize, and be inspired by Tina. Something I never thought I'd feel from the character that we didn't really see that much of. But I think that's the beauty of this show. Each person in that restaurant has a life and their own struggles outside of those walls, and it's easy to forget, but we just don't know what it entails until we see it. It's only when we get a look behind the door that we realize just how interesting we are. So, there you have it. Why the Bear Season 3 Episode 6 is perfect. If you want to see more videos on the Bear, then click on the card in the top corner. I've broken down the entirety of Season 3, and there's also a playlist where I broke down the perfect episodes from Season 2. But if you want to see something on some other shows, then you can head over to my channel. What did you think of this episode? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. As always, thanks for tuning into the video, and I'll see you in the next one.